I never thought I'd be the kind of man who had to sit in the back of his own school and watch a teacher unknowingly destroy herself. But life has a way of placing you right where you need to be, especially when someone tries to harm what you love most. Let me back up. I'm David Hollins, principal of Langston High School. I've been in education for 27 years. I've seen it all. Fights in the hallway, cheating scandals that nearly made the evening news, budget cuts that forced us to cancel art programs, even a goat in the chemistry lab once. Spirit Week. I've consoled teachers after breakdowns, spoken at funerals for students gone too soon, and broken up more cafeteria food fights than I care to count. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened this past fall when my daughter Amira transferred into my school. We just moved back to my hometown. My wife had been offered a new job at the local hospital. Amira had been attending a private school in the suburbs, but she insisted on finishing high school where I worked. She said she wanted to experience what it was like to be in a real public school, around kids from every walk of life. I was proud of her for that. I kept our relationship quiet, not because I was ashamed. Lord, no. Amira is the light of my life. But I wanted her to have a fair chance. No favoritism. No whispers in the hallway. No eyes watching her every move, just because she was the principal's daughter. I told her, "You earn your place here, baby girl, just like everyone else." She smiled and said, "Yes, sir." Amira was adopted. My wife and I took her in when she was just 2 years old. Her birth mother was a teenage girl, scared alone, who couldn't keep her. We were blessed to be chosen. Amira is black, just like me, and she grew up strong, smart, kind, but also sensitive. She sees the world in layers most of us miss. She remembers the little things, like what someone wore the day they first smiled at her, or how a friend's voice trembled when they lied. She's the kind of kid who reads Toni Morrison at night and volunteers at the soup kitchen the next morning. She joined Langston High as a junior, honor roll student, speech and debate champion, avid reader, passionate about social justice. That should have been a dream for any teacher. Should have. Her English teacher, Ms. Kerr, had a reputation. Old school, no nonsense, believed in structure, grammar drills, pop quizzes, and calling on students in alphabetical order. Nothing inherently wrong with that, until she let her biases seep into how she ran the classroom. At first, it was subtle. Amira would come home withdrawn, quiet. I'd ask how her day was. "Fine," she'd say, shrugging off her backpack like it weighed more than she did. But her silence spoke volumes. The comments started soon after. "She only calls on me when we're reading about angry characters. She gave me a B- on an essay. She called too emotionally charged. She says I'm too outspoken, that I dominate the room, but I barely speak." Still, I held back. I wanted Amira to handle it. She asked me to trust her, and I did. But as the weeks went on, the weight grew heavier. I started overhearing other students in the hallways. Whispers. "That new girl talks too much. She thinks she's smarter than everyone." But Amira, she never retaliated, never lashed out. She kept showing up, kept raising her hand, kept turning in her assignments, until the hallway incident. Jake, senior linebacker, known more for touchdowns than tact. He brushed past her in the hallway and said, "You always act like a victim. Nobody cares." She didn't say a word, just kept walking. But that night, she cried into her pillow. I sat beside her, rubbed her back. "You want me to say something?" She wiped her eyes. "Not yet," she said. "Let me finish my project." She was talking about her literature presentation. The class had been assigned a major semester project. Analyze a theme of your choice through modern literature. Amira chose racial injustice in contemporary storytelling. She poured herself into it. I watched her sit at the kitchen table till midnight, headphones in, books open, typing, rewriting, researching. She pulled quotes from James Baldwin, Jessamine Ward, Angie Thomas, Jason Reynolds. She built a narrative, one that showed how literature doesn't just reflect society, it challenges it. Her slides were elegant, her script poetic, her heart wide open. I offered to review it. She just smiled and said, "You'll hear it with everyone else." She wanted to stand on her own. When the day came, I asked the school counselor, Ms. Jenkins, to sit in on the class. She agreed. Later that afternoon, Ms. Jenkins found me in the hallway. "David, you need to hear this." She told me how Amira stood tall, confident, how the entire room shifted as soon as she began to speak. She opened with Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. But 5 minutes in, Ms. Kerr interrupted. "Amira, keep the discussion literary, please. Let's avoid personal grievances." Amira paused, regrouped. Then she continued. Kerr cut in again. "You're making this too political. This is not a forum for protest." Some students laughed. Emma, a girl who'd been whispering snide comments for weeks, muttered under her breath, "Here she goes again." But Amira didn't stop. Still, Amira finished. She didn't raise her voice, didn't flinch, didn't rush. She closed with a quote from her grandmother. "Silence may feel safe, but it is rarely just." The room was quiet. Then the class clapped, reluctantly. That evening, Ms. Kerr emailed me. She wanted a meeting about concerning behavior from Amira. She walked into my office the next morning, thick folder in hand. Notes, printouts, emails, her jaw tight. "Mr. Hollins, I need to address an issue with a student, Amira Hollins." She pronounced my daughter's name like it was poison. "She's disruptive, argumentative. She refuses to stay on topic. I believe she's undermining my authority and making others uncomfortable." I let her finish, sat still, didn't say a word until, "Do you know who her father is, Miss Kerr?" She blinked. "No, I've never met him." I looked her square in the eye. "You're meeting him now." Her face dropped. I had no idea. "Clearly, and that's the problem." I stood up. "You're being placed on administrative leave, pending a full investigation." She tried to object. "Ms. Kerr, you silenced my daughter. You told her that her truth wasn't appropriate. You tried to punish her for being who she is." That stops today. I walked her out myself. What followed was a reckoning. Students came forward. Past graduates sent letters. A parent told me her son had left the AP program because Ms. Kerr said he wasn't AP material. He was now attending NYU. We formed a committee, interviewed students, reviewed grading patterns. Amira never gloated, never even brought it up at dinner. Instead, she asked, "Can I organize a forum on equity and student voice?" She did, and it was more than beautiful. It was transformative. Students filled the auditorium. White, black, Latino, Asian, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, atheist, gay, straight. They all came. They shared stories. They listened. They healed. Emma stood, tears in her eyes. I didn't understand. I was cruel. I'm sorry. Amira didn't hesitate. She walked over and hugged her. That moment changed everything. The forum became monthly, then quarterly. We created a new elective, Voices of Resistance in Literature. Amira co-taught it with our newest hire, Ms. Daniels, a young black teacher, fresh out of Howard University and full of fire. Amira helped design the curriculum, brought in works by Claudia Rankin, Ocean Vuong, Brian Stevenson. Students wrote their own stories, read them aloud, cried together, grew together. Ms. Kerr resigned before the board finished deliberating. She moved 3 states over. Langston High changed, not just in policy, but in spirit. Murals now line the halls. The morning announcements include a Student Voice of the Week. Teacher training now includes equity and cultural literacy. And we listen now, really listen. As for me, I've learned that the best lessons don't come from books or podiums. They come from the brave ones who speak when it's hard, who stand when they're tired, who teach us to be better just by being who they are. My name is David Hollins. And that brilliant, brave, unstoppable young woman, she's my daughter. And she changed us all.